idea where... I think we were just chatting on Monday up for Social Club. And
I've got something that will blow your mind.
He was saying something. Yeah, he was like, it will blow your mind. And he sent it to me. And I was reading it. It was essentially saying... I probably shouldn't... Are we recording?
Yeah.
Probably shouldn't say this. But...
Well, don't say it if we've got to edit it out.
People are...
Controlling our minds?
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, I agree.
And it's a long story.
There's some things you don't want to know, isn't there? There's something you're better off knowing. Ignorance is bliss and all that. And I don't want to know what's going on inside my football club. I don't want to know.
Bringing it to football. No,
yeah, I don't want to know what's going on. I don't want to know the inner workings of football, because it's depressing. And obviously got the Footy Leaks website, which exposes. All that it seems to do actually is expose how much players are earning. In terms of contracts, which I guess is the most interesting part of. I don't know if my interest is because I'm getting a bit older, or House of Cards was that good that I started to look into it properly. Yeah.
And the whole Trump thing and the Brexit thing, but it does all feel a bit like manipulated life.
Yeah.
And football as well, which we're going to talk about actually. Should we start?
Fan League podcast.
Fan League podcast. Sorry.
One for the weekend.
Brought
to you by Fan League.
Yeah.
Which is an app.
Which is an app, right, good. You're being really professional this time.
Which is now in beta. In beta mode.
Version. Get on with it, James. Beta version of the Fan League app is available now. The link is in the description. We've been playing for the last few weeks. That's me, James Alcott, Flav, and Ian McIntosh, who isn't here this week.
Notable by his absence.
Yep, and he was wicked last week. And if you just generally like a good podcast, I know we're talking about the weekend's action, but we try and talk about other bits as well.
I feel like we bring more than that. I think we allow people into our lives, and why wouldn't anyone want to be
part of our lives?
Yeah.
But Ian McIntosh last week was class.
I mean, he is a class act. When it comes to talking football, there are a few better.
True. So if you want to go and check out that, then you can. But this podcast, if you're new, welcome to the Long Ball Street and One for the Weekend. This is a podcast brought to you by Fan League, which is a new app that's launching properly in August. But there's a beta version that you can try out now and play against us.
It's pretty sweet, actually.
It's very cool.
We're not going to say anything else, obviously, because this is a podcast.
There's banners and stuff.
Yeah, which would be a bit awkward, wouldn't it? It's a terrible terrible app. But no, it's really good. It's cool. It's good fun.
And so the aim of all of that is to predict the weekend's actions and sort of test yourself out against your mates.
Yeah.
And a bit like the pools back in the day, it's a bit like that. And we've been doing it the last few weeks. Let's look at last week's results. So...
do we have to?
We do, Flav, because after getting some criticism, I've done a lot better. I had a good weekend. And do you know what? I really am looking out for it now. I was like, got that right, wicked. I got 8 out of 13 this week.
Right.
Notable ones I'm quite proud of. Swansea beating Everton, which we're going to be talking about an Everton player who needs to make up his mind in this podcast, Ross Barkley. We're going to talk about that in a little bit. West Brom, the bore-off game of the week. Getting that right, I thought I was pretty pleased with that. And Aston Villa Brighton, although I did hedge that one. So hedging is when you put 2 bets on a game in Fan League, and I was quite proud of that one as well. 5 out of 13, Flo. Explain yourself.
I can't. Other than that, I clearly don't know anything about football. I'm consistently bad at competition. I've found throughout my life that if ever there's a I've got zero competitive edge. I'd rather allow someone if you want this, you take it. You gotta be. I'm a terrible.
A bit like that.
Actually, I am. Yeah. I've got no time for.
Well, that's a nice trait.
It is, but you achieve less in your life ultimately. I mean,
but more people probably like you. And that can get you further.
Have you seen the YouTube comments? Not sure that's 100% true. I don't care. I don't care about winning stuff, and I don't care whether people like me or not. And that's where I'm at. So I'm in quite a good job for that.
Yeah. I have the difficulty of being very competitive, but trying to...
Are you?
Trying to behave whilst being competitive.
You do that? Because I didn't know.
Good.
Yeah. So you must be quite happy. 8? Ian McIntosh got 8?
I'm more delighted than you will ever know. I'm so happy with that.
How did Garrett get on?
Garrett, who is... So, if this is the first time you listen to One for the Weekend, in our predictions, Garrett... 6 out of 13. Not good enough, mate. Not good enough. Nice try. Better than Flav. Not good enough. So, people in the comments, it's on you as well. because he's your fan representative. You need to get involved and give him some words of wisdom and inside knowledge, because we've done our bits now. So help him out is what I'm saying. One thing that we're going to be talking about on the podcast today is momentum. And here's a stat from our results from last week. My banker accuracy. So so bankers are results that you're certain are going to work out. My banker accuracy out of 100% is 11%.
Yeah.
Is so bad. And so I wanted
It's terrible,
yeah, because I was going, oh well, they won last week, so it's got to be them, or they're the favourites, so it's got to be them. They're in great form, so it's got to be them.
Yeah.
Which got me into thinking about momentum. So we're going to be talking about momentum and if it is a thing, if it's just a myth, and also the other bits and pieces, because at this time of the season, predicting stuff is difficult because there's so many variables in football regardless, but when you add into the situation and the desperation of teams in terms of winning or losing, or the lack of desperation, that affects a lot of things. And I think, I'm quite excited to talk about this.
What, are we doing that now?
No, we'll talk about that in a little bit.
All right.
But yeah. So that was last week. Flav, you need to sort of up your game.
Yeah, massively. I mean, I am trying. I am. It's not like I'm just going in and flicking and touching any of the predictions. It's not like I'm doing that. I'm actually trying. I'm sitting down and thinking, and frankly, my performance has been horrendous, and I apologise to my mum and dad.
Good thing is, there's always another week this weekend. Hopefully, do a little bit better. So we're going to be talking about a lot of the games. Tottenham versus Man United. We're going to chat about the playoffs. Yep. And again, we can sort of talk about momentum with that as well. But we're also going to talk about other things as well. As I said, Everton.
Sounds like quite a lot. How long is this pod?
It's going to be about an hour.
All right, fine with that.
You can dip into it and out of it whenever you want to. We're going to talk about Ronald Koeman and the sort of ultimatum that he's given Ross Barkley, which you said. I'd said this to you before we did this. And
it's so funny.
I'm intrigued to see your thoughts on this, because you're a bit surprised by it. We've got 3 for the weekend, not 2 for the weekend, in terms of questions at the end of the show. And we're going to talk about agents as well, because that's a big talking point that's kind of dropped over the last few days.
Yeah.
Mini Raiola and the money that he's making, and agents in general, and what that means for the game of football.
Yeah.
So if you want a preview to the weekend, we're here for you. If you want general chat, we're here for you as well.
Yeah.
And Soldiers Lost in Battle, we've got that as well.
Oh, yeah, everyone's favourite. I mean, I presume. Has anyone said anything nice about that?
People generally like it, yeah.
Yeah.
People do generally like it. So Soldiers in Battle, these are stories from people who have had a difficult time and have had to miss the football for some reason. Yeah. Or people who know of people who do that. Okay. So, right, let's crack on. We've done last week's results. Let's talk about this. Yeah, let's go. Everton midfielder Ross Barkley apparently has until the end of the season, so that's 10 days, to sign a new contract, or he will be sold, says Ronald Koeman.
Right, so there's 2 things. One, saying ultimatums are risky, especially when teams above you want to buy your players. So there's rumours that Arsenal are interested. Spurs have been linked for ages. If you're Ross Barkley, specifically at Tottenham, you're looking at essentially playing well and guaranteed the England place.
Go on.
But the other thing bizarre is why Koeman's gone to him, look, here's your ultimatum, sign or get off, get off the pot kind of thing. And it's like, it's bizarre. It's like saying,
it's tough love, isn't it? That's what he's going for.
Yeah, but
that's the tactic he's using. And if because he's played for Barcelona, he's won the European Cup, he's managed Ajax, he's a big deal manager. I think he's been linked with Barcelona. He's got the qualities and the CV to be, sorry to quote Harry Redknapp, a top manager, right?
Yeah.
So. And Everton are getting a new stadium. They've supposedly got a lot of money, the new owner, all that stuff. Exciting times for Everton. But they are still the best of the rest.
Yeah.
They're not that top 6 team yet.
Yeah.
They've got a lot of potential to do that. So is this not the right tactic for Ronald Koeman to go, well, look, if you don't want to be here, if you don't get how big a deal this is, then you can go because I'll get someone else. I mean, it might be a slight bluff, but do you not think that kind of tough love is a smart call to make?
Yeah, it is. It is ultimately because it leaves Everton in the position of they look like they're in control, and they're Koeman is putting the badge in front of the will and demands and diva-ish natures of modern footballers, as you'd imagine. So in that respect, he's doing the right thing. But in respect of trying your best to keep the player, I wouldn't for a public flogging, which is essentially what it is. It's like saying Barkley. Yeah, because he's saying Barkley, you haven't signed. This isn't the club doing this. Everton want to keep you as a contract offer. Barkley's probably saying, I want more money. This is all of my presumptions. I want more money. And Everton are saying this is how much.
Well, he wants Champions League football. He's a 23-year-old who everyone understands that he has great potential. I think that's another question: is how good is he? I'd love to know from Everton fans what they think of him when they watch him week in week out.
Yeah.
Obviously, we don't get to do that. We just hope that he's going to be great, and then you see him. Well, actually, you don't see him that often for England because he's been. I think
he's a very good player. I think in terms of. He's improved massively this season under Koeman. He went for a bit of a lull last year, but that kind of whole club was in a lull under Martinez. But if he wanted to sign, he probably would have done. Like you say, he probably wants either lots more money or he wants Champions League football. Either way, neither of those. The fact that he hasn't signed doesn't scream that he's loyal.
Because he has been linked with Spurs, hasn't he?
Yeah, he's been linked with Tottenham. It's a weird one because I don't know if he.
Would he get in the Spurs team?
Not as it stands. No, he wouldn't. But I'm not saying that he isn't on his day better than the players we have there. It's just that Eriksen has been on absolute fire. It'd be Eriksen and Ali, and does he get in front of those two? Probably not. That said, he's perfectly suited to Pochettino's style, and I could see him at Tottenham.
Because that's the point as well. Is what is best for his career? Is it being at a Champions League club but not playing enough? Or as many games as you want to, or being at Everton where you're going to get, I think they're, I don't know, I always get confused with the Europa League stuff, but are they in that?
They can. I don't know. I don't know if 7th is good enough, but they probably will end up qualifying because Man United winning.
And so, he starts there. He's one of the main men there.
I think he.
And they've got potential as a club.
Spurs are not going to spend £35 million on him without a view to him getting in the first team. It's not like Sissoko where he turned up and immediately realised we've done it. He's a dud. Yeah. Barkley's not Musa Sissoko. So he's going to come into the team. He will play. We have a lot of football to play next year, and we're going to need the bodies in. We need quality. So I can see Barkley being a good addition to our squad and playing his fair share of football. It's just that he may not start ahead of Ali and Eriksen. But do you think he's done and dusted at Everton though? Do you?
No, I think Koeman's gone. I'm going to make this black and white. I'm going to put a bit of pressure on you. You're an Everton lad. They're expecting you to do it. That's going to pull at your heartstrings a little bit. You want to kind of get it done. I don't think they want to mess about. Another angle of it might be that if they want to sell him, they want a bidding war, so they want it to start early because that can allow it to be to let more people get involved and you sell him for a higher price because he's obviously a good asset. 40 games, 5 goals, 5 assists. Assists, not incredible.
Not when you've got the most prolific striker in
and you're supposed to be working in tandem to a point.
Not incredible stats, but fine, fair. That kind of player costs you between 20 and 30 million. That isn't an issue. I just think that there's more potential in Barkley than we've seen. He's mostly potential at the moment. You ultimately want him to be delivering stats of like plus 10 assists a season, getting 10 goals. That's kind of where you want him to be. But under another manager, maybe I think actually he's. What
would you do?
Exactly. If I was Ross Barkley, I would stay at Everton for another year. I would work under Koeman. Koeman's done a fantastic job there. Everton are moving in the right direction now. I would stay there and see how it goes next season.
But I guess if that's not good enough for Koeman. That's what I find interesting, and I like that. I like that strength from Koeman. He's lippy. He's lippy, Koeman. He doesn't mess about. But if he's saying sign, so if he signs, he needs to sign a 4 or 5 year deal because he's a 23-year-old.
It's a massive commitment, and he has a year left after this one, so they have to sell him.
So he's made it very clear. Yeah. If he doesn't sign, he's off.
But a contract doesn't mean that a player won't go. It just protects the club against having to sell him cheaply. So true. I think if he wanted to leave next summer, you could promise him another year in the same way De Gea did and signed a new contract with, and Modric did with Tottenham before he left to go to Real Madrid. That is a precedent that's been set previously. I just think that Barkley's coming back into where you'd expect him to be. I think next season he could properly kick on. If Lukaku stays, then you could understand that'd be a great reason to stay. For
and Barkley. That's why he's being hesitant, isn't it? because he wants to know that these big guys.
Maybe there is this kind of standoff. It's like if Lukaku goes, and Barkley's going to say, "Well, where do we go from here?" Or he could join Tottenham, and there's already a kind of semi-half-finished article there. That's where Everton are probably aiming to be in a year or two, and they're kind of on that right path, definitely. But I think I can't see how Koeman coming out helps Everton's position. It's almost giving the leverage away that everyone knows they want to sell, so clubs are going to go in lowballing.
Yeah, true. I think this is also this smells a bit of one of those English talents that goes, "I'm brilliant," and I understand that you need that kind of confidence to be a great player, but then goes to those big teams, gets that move, and then he feels like he becomes a failure story. Do you know what I mean? Like a Jack Rodwell or Sean Wright-Phillips when he went to Chelsea, when he had something quite good there. If I was Ross Barkley, I would stay there, definitely.
Well, I think Jack Rodwell was an unfair comparison because they went to Man City and he was never going to play. I think...
But that's my point. He doesn't know that.
If he comes to Tottenham, he plays. If he goes to Man United, he plays. If he goes to Arsenal, he probably plays. So I don't think he's the same.
I'm not sure he does.
I think he does. I think he's a level above in terms of talent than Jack Rodwell. Yeah. Maybe not when Rodwell left.
I know that has been Rodwell.
But I think he goes to Man United and has a good career. He goes to Tottenham and has a good career.
That's interesting.
It's not like he's coming and he's using Tottenham or United as a stepping stone to Real Madrid. I think the next move is where he's going to spend a large proportion of his career, and he could forge a very good one out of it. But he's not a top tier European level footballer. Potentially, maybe, but there was potential in Cherno Samba.
So if you are a fan of any of the, say, top six or big European side as well, and you've seen Ross Barkley, let me know. Do you think he would be good enough to get in your first team? Everton fans, do you think he's good enough for those teams as well? And how desperately do you want him to stay? Let us know.
Everton are in a weird position. Sorry, before we move in, because they're in the same position as Tottenham were when we had to sell Berbatov, when we lost Modric, when we lost Carrick. When you're at that position where you're not a top...
What is that position? Right,
you're on the brink. You're building something good, but then all these fucking irritating clubs like Man United and Tottenham probably will end up being... come and poach your players, because ultimately you can pay the wages because you're in the Champions League, and you know that you've got a good selling point. Yeah,
so come over here.
Exactly. So we had it with Modric, Carrick, Berbatov. And Bale to a point, yeah. So it's really tough, but ultimately it's the manager and chairman working together that will get you through all of that, because I don't care what anyone says. There are a few mercurial players that exist in the world who will improve any team, but the vast majority of your players rely on a good tactical system, a good manager, and a club that believes in you and supports you in order to perform.
Okay, right. Let's move forward. Let's talk about... we're going to be talking about transfers to a point as well in a little bit later on. We'll talk about agents and that whole craziness. But let's get on to momentum now. So in our slip this week, we've got... So if you go to the bottom of your thing there, Flav, you'll see our predictions for this week. And we've got the playoffs in the predictions this week.
I love the playoff.
You love the playoffs? I love the playoffs as well, mate.
Yeah, I actually look forward to the playoffs more probably than any other game.
I don't know if I've said this in a podcast. I'm going to share it now. I've definitely said it to you otherwise. For Champions League, there should be playoffs. That would make the Premier League so much more exciting, because you'd have... So for the fourth place of the Champions League, you'd have 4th, 5th, 6th, 7th playing in the playoffs at the end of the season.
Love it.
It would be amazing. And also, at the moment, there are those 7 teams, but those mid-table teams would have a lot more to play for if they could just about get 7th,
I think that's
and
a
then
great
get in
idea.
there and still get in the Champions League. It'd be awesome.
Yeah, I mean, it is a great idea, but there's obviously all these things like coefficients and things that would be affected by terrible teams. Not terrible, but teams that have no chance of coping against these other teams with ginormous budgets. So while it is a good idea, and I'd welcome it.
And they do something in Belgium. It's so complicated, I can't even explain it to you. But in Belgium, they do something very similar, like for relegation, for European places, for all of it. So pretty much, there's only like 2 or 3 places that don't have something that they're playing off for.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, it's just to keep it interesting. Great. It's like they break at a certain point in the season, they break it off into 2 leagues. I think they do it in Scotland as well.
Yeah, they did in Scotland, but I don't think it's not as complicated in Belgium. But it's the 30th anniversary of the playoffs as well, and they are completely ingrained in the Football League now. And we have a representative in Matt, the owner, and so on the Long Ball Street we have 2 podcasts. So if this is the first ever podcast that you've watched on YouTube or listened to on iTunes, there's 2 podcasts that come out each week. And earlier in the week, me, you, and Matt sat down and had a chat, and we started talking about momentum. And so going into the playoffs, Huddersfield are playing Sheffield Wednesday. The first leg's at home. The other one, which is in our slip, is Fulham versus Reading. So Reading finished 3rd in the league, Fulham finished 6th. And so the form going into these games is quite interesting, because Huddersfield won 1 game in 5. Not doing very well, and we'll get into that in a second. But Fulham, in terms of the last 6 games, Fulham have got the best record in the entire championship.
Yeah, they're on fire.
In terms of the last 10 games, Reading have got the best form in the entire league. I've forgotten about Sheffield Wednesday, but don't worry. Sorry, Sheffield Wednesday fans. But Matt was saying in that podcast about they have no momentum. There is no chance that they can win the playoffs. They've lost to Sheffield Wednesday, I think, twice this season as well. It's done. It's dusted. It's not going to happen. What you've hedged your bet.
Yeah.
You've gone for a draw for Huddersfield or a win for Sheffield Wednesday.
Yes.
Why do you say that? Does momentum play a part in that?
Of course it does. And Matt's influence over me plays a part in it, because he's going, got no chance. So I'm like, yeah, maybe they haven't got a chance. But Sheffield Wednesday have beaten Huddersfield, done a double over them this year as well. But yeah, momentum's a weird one, because
do you believe in momentum?
Yeah,
generally?
Completely, because it gets proven over and over again. But I don't know whether that is that idea has been planted in my head by everybody else, because momentum gets mentioned so often, and it's just how bad you feel after a loss, regardless of what's come before it. Because Spurs have just won 9 on the bounce, and we lost to West Ham, 27 points out of 30. That's momentum. But it feels like, because we lost against West Ham, that the momentum...
That you don't have the momentum.
Yeah, it's gone, because you lost the
You've
game.
gone Spurs for a win there. I mean, you probably would do that regardless, wouldn't you? I've hedged my bet. I've still gone Spurs or Man United.
Remember, this is the White Hart Lane. Like, this is the last game at White Hart Lane. Yeah. If the Spurs players are not up for this, then I don't know what else they can be.
But you can be... So, learnt this in GCSE PE. Yeah. You can be over-aroused, and that can lead to you... Not like that. You can be over-aroused, which can lead to your performance being worse, which I'll explain a bit more in a second. What?
Please. No, I'm fascinated.
Yeah, it's not lads aren't running around with hard-ons. They're just like, they're too up for it. Gaza, 1991 FA Cup final, over-aroused. He was too up for it.
I mean...
Okay. So when you say, like, if they can't be up for this one, that could actually be detrimental.
Right, so they kind of almost burn too much energy. It's like boxers getting into a ring and they're overly pumped and they can't concentrate and they kind of act irrationally.
Exactly.
And they exert too much energy.
Exactly.
Right.
And so let's do momentum first, and I'll get onto that part as well, because in terms of optimal performance, there's 4 psychological C's of optimal performance.
Gotcha.
Which we'll get into in a sec. In terms of momentum. So there was an academic paper called The Hot Hand in Basketball on the misperception of random sequences. And essentially, this paper was suggesting that a lot of people mistake a pattern for some kind of meaning or momentum.
Yes.
And so this hot hand in basketball is, if there's a guy, he's got 3 on the trot,
fire. Get
the ball to him, because he's going to put it in, because he's got a hot hand, he's got momentum, it's working out for him, right?
Yeah.
But what this paper is basically saying is that there's so much randomness in what you're doing, be that in any sport.
Yeah.
And I'm moving this to football. It's so much so in football. There are so many variables, so many things that can change and happen.
Yeah.
That the outcomes of this was that there's a much stronger belief in momentum than there is evidence of it in the data of anything.
Yeah, but that's like, science can't explain why bumblebees fly. So I don't buy that. You're essentially momentum and form. Players with the right mental attitude, when you've got form, when you have momentum, because that's what we're talking about, isn't it? Form. Momentum is form. It has to be. It's belief. It's winning.
So.
It creates a self-belief.
But within the microcosm of one game,
form
exactly. does go out the window because
So
there's all these things to change.
If you're flipping a coin and you have two outcomes, heads or tails, each time you've got a 50% chance. It doesn't matter how many times you've hit tails. You could hit tails 100 times on a route on the bounce. You're no more or less likely to hit tails again on the 101st spin.
Yeah.
So in that instance, it is, but that's an inanimate object, right? And I understand the idea of that, and I believe it. But there's form strikers, and strikers that have momentum and self-belief. That's what it creates, a self-belief. So the hot hand, I don't agree or believe that you have players that are on fire. That you don't have players that are on fire. That their ability to score a goal isn't completely dictated, or isn't partly dictated by their mood.
Yeah.
Based on what's happened before.
But what I'm saying to you is that QPR, we won the playoffs, and we were in really, really bad form, awful form.
Yeah.
And actually, the year I've lost the playoffs as well, and that year we were in the best form I've ever seen QPR in.
Yeah.
And we lost.
Yeah.
And football, out of all sort of 1 versus 1, team against team, person against person sports, football has the lowest percentage of the favourite winning that game. So it's not the toss of a coin. It's not 50%.
Yeah.
But it might just be 63% to 37%.
Yeah.
And that is still a lot higher. And the amount of variables that allows it to be that means that momentum
can't be taken too seriously.
Can't be taken. However, what I would say is that going back to the 4 psychological C's of optimal performance, right? Control. So these 4 are control, which is the ability to restrain oneself, especially in difficult situations. And this is very serious for us, by the way. Concentration, the action or power of you know what concentration means. Fuck. Commitment and confidence. So control, concentration, commitment, and confidence. Right?
Yes.
What I find interesting about this part of the season now, and what I think, so me and Adam were talking about this earlier, more important than momentum, I believe, is the need to win, but the ability to control that need to win.
100%. So when someone actually has won the league, when they've won it, you'll see a drop off in form. You see it over and over again.
Because that need to win, it heightens and it really focuses the concentration, the commitment to something.
Yeah.
And it gets rid of confidence to a point, because it's not about you become task orientated.
Yeah.
You're just going, we need to get this done.
Yeah.
But what can ruin it, and could ruin it for Spurs against Man United, is you'll have all of those because you'll be up for this huge game. But if you can't retain your control, you will be over aroused.
Yes.
And then you won't be playing at your optimum level.
Okay.
So
I get it.
With that all in mind, and the amount of variables that could happen, the point I'm trying to make is anything can happen in these playoffs.
Yeah,
I think I would not be surprised whatsoever if Huddersfield go on and win the playoffs.
I wouldn't be surprised ever, because as you say, you've seen it before in sport, and all of this makes sense. I think if one of those 4 C's, the most important one would be commitment and a promise, which is a promise, firm decision to do something, and a manager using the right scenario and the right timing and the right motivational tactic can transform the emotion in the squad and the will and the commitment to do something. So, like you saw, Huddersfield might be going and say, look, we've worked our asses off for this. We're here now. They've beaten us before. Let's not make it a third time. Whatever it is they might say. Yeah. And that might give them enough of that 1 C to get them over the line.
Exactly.
So it's fascinating. That said, it's all a bit bollocks, isn't it? Because momentum is form, and form is real.
I agree with that. And so we've got 2, if you scroll down a little bit, Flav, you can see that they've got the last 6 matches and the last 10 matches. And that's what I was saying earlier about, so Fulham are playing Reading. And I've gone with Fulham in this, right?
Yeah.
And I think I may have made a mistake here. Right. Because Fulham, I believe, from seeing them twice this year, seeing them on telly a bit as well, they look like the best team that we've played by a long way. Adam, what did you think? You saw them recently.
Yeah.
You were impressed by them, yeah?
I think they've got
You think I've said for a little while I kind of feel like they're going to go up as well. I think and they're top of the table in terms of the last 6 matches.
Yeah.
But Reading, if you're kind of forgetting momentum, you're concentrating on longevity of form.
Yep.
In the last 10 games, they've done better.
Yeah, and they've also got the anomaly result of the 7-1 drubbing to Norwich, which no one understands at all.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
So, although I've gone with Fulham,
yep,
I might have made a mistake there because Reading have also finished 3rd in the league this year.
Yeah, I think. What did I go for? I'm looking at the wrong one here, but Fulham. It says Reading.
You've gone for Reading. No, you haven't. You've hedged your bet. You've gone for a Fulham home win or a draw, which I think is quite a good shout, actually.
Yeah, I mean, it's
nothing.
Got nothing.
I think whoever wins out of those two, the Fulham or the Reading one, I feel like will go on and win the whole thing. Maybe I feel like I'm rambling a little bit here.
Yeah.
But what I want to kind of get across is I'm sort of diving into how do you kind of predict these things, and there are so many different things, which is what makes football great. You can just have a hunch, you can have a gut feeling, you can go on the stats, and that's what's interesting about the app as well, is that you kind of everyone can have their own different philosophy on how they're going to want to do it.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, it's 11 against 11, and shit can happen
unless you're taking into account form. And in this instance, obviously, Reading and Fulham are both on fire, aren't they? So it's almost a shame that they don't get to meet in the final. But like you say, the interesting part of all of this is that how much does all of the form going into, because it's like this the 3rd versus 7th, right? And you kind of think, oh, I want to avoid the geezers in third, and so you don't want to finish 7th. But there's like this sweet spot of 5th, isn't there?
Oh, you mean 3rd and 6th? There's only
6th. Sorry, 3rd and 6th. Yeah. So there's like a sweet spot in qualifying for the play, or perceived sweet spot is like the 5th or 4th.
Yeah, 4th because you get the home leg at your place.
And if you finish 3rd, like Fulham, they could get complacent. So.
Yeah. Well, yeah, Reading finished 3rd, but right. I think anyway. But so let's get your predictions. Give me your predictions for the whole thing of these semi-finals.
I would say
who's going to win it? The semi-finals. Who's going to win the final? Call it now.
My gut feeling is Fulham are going up as well, but I really want Huddersfield. I really want Huddersfield, but as I say, I have Sheffield Wednesday to go through, and I've hedged on Fulham and Reading. So, but Fulham. I
would love to see Huddersfield go the whole way and to beat Fulham in the final, because then he would have to believe.
Yeah, because he's written it off completely, hasn't he?
He's completely written it off. I've actually got a feeling that I think Huddersfield will get to the final, but I think Fulham will beat them in the final.
How much do you, when you're approaching a football match, difficult period, do you self-preserve? Do you go into every game, QPR game, confident?
No. So, I think I'm really realistic with it, actually.
Right.
I think, I remember we were playing QPR playing Everton the year we went down, and I said to my mate Craig when we were watching, I was like, I know what's going to happen. We'll battle for 20 minutes. They'll get one goal, heads will go down, we'll lose 3-1.
Yeah.
And it was bang on. And that wasn't me trying to
Yeah.
And the thing as well, you wake up one day and you feel great and you think, yeah, we can do this.
Yeah. I had the same for a long time. I kind of was always just completely pessimistic. You know, it's fine. It's Spurs. We're gonna fuck it up. It's fine. But recently they've put me in a really uncomfortable position of actually being positive and feeling good about their football club, which is ultimately going to end up in disaster, isn't it? It's going to hurt me at some point.
Yeah, I think that's a great life lesson that football fans have to deal with is that hurt and that bit of embarrassment and the humiliation.
Yeah,
we've chatted about humiliation points before. I think generally that builds quite good character in people.
I think I've had enough good out of this positive spell in terms of finishing above Arsenal that, you know, when the bad times do return, and they will, you know, I can hold on to these happy moments.
In terms of the need to win,
yep.
Hull and Swansea down the bottom there. This is why I've gone for a Hull victory against Crystal Palace.
Yeah.
Because despite getting 6 points away from home the entire season, the worst in the Premier League, they need that win. and I think they've got the quality. They've got enough quality to not lose control and get that win against Crystal Palace, who won't be showing the commitment.
Yeah,
the
Sacco.
other team.
Sacco is injured for the last 2 games, so they've lost him, and he's been. I think he played eight games for Palace so far this season, as he's nominated for their Player of the Year.
Really?
After 8 games, which is incredible and obviously sad for the other Palace players.
Yeah.
I think
you've gone against me. You've gone Palace with a home win.
I have. Palace are fairly decent at home. Hull have been horrendous away from home. They've just got beat as well. They're going to need
versus need.
Well, this is it. It's like Palace. They're up, aren't they? They're not going down. They're definitely not. So, they. It's a tough one. I've gone for Palace, and I'm sticking with it because
they are good. They've been good at home as well.
They've just gone for a little bit of a difficult period. The last couple of games they've struggled, but and actually they're missing Sacco. I'm not 100% confident on this. I probably should have hedged, but I'm going to go for Palace. I think it'd be too difficult for Hull away from home. Although my heart says I want Hull to stay up and I want them to get the result against Palace, but I don't think they will.
Again, this is something that happens as well, I think. Once a team gets relegated, I remember Nottingham Forest did it years ago. I remember Blackburn did it. They got relegated, and then the pressure kind of lifted, and they started to win a few games.
Yeah.
Sunderland beat Hull last week, and that was the banker.
Yeah.
Ian McIntosh has said, "Look, everything happened." What he said? Even a headless chicken runs around. He'll run around for hours, but he's still dead.
Yeah.
So don't put any money or bets or whatever on Sunderland.
And lo and behold.
But they beat Hull, and now they have Swansea this week.
That must have been an absolutely gutting result to take if you're Hull. You're just sitting there thinking Sunderland are down.
Yeah.
They haven't beaten. They couldn't beat.
Well, roll over.
Yeah.
Roll over.
Yeah, come on. and they just didn't.
Yeah.
And that's what's so beautiful about football as well is the Sunderland have absolutely zero to play for. And that's actually why I've gone for Borough as well in their game.
Yeah.
I have. I've gone for Borough.
As an upset, yeah.
As an upset to beat Southampton. Southampton have nothing to play for, but Borough have dignity. And they owe their fans a little bit after being the most boring team on earth, apart from when Traore gets the ball, which is fascinating, but ultimately not very productive.
Borough have discreetly got relegated, haven't they?
Yeah.
They're kind of
No one's given them any
mid-table for ages,
Yeah.
and then they kind of just went on a bad run and go, and from nowhere, they go down next week.
They're gone.
They're gone.
They're gone.
Finished.
Yeah. So I think they owe their fans something, and Southampton have got zero to play for.
Yeah. But
so that's one of my upsets as well.
Fair enough. Right, let's talk about something that's got nothing to do with this weekend's action.
Mm-hmm.
The influence of agents.
Oh yeah, because this is to do with
this story's kind of been rumbling on the last few days. So FIFA want to investigate, or are investigating the Pogba transfer, because it looks like Mini Raiola, who's his agent, has taken home £41 million from this transfer.
Yeah.
And this is also at the same time Andy Holt, who is the Atkinson Stanley chairman. He kind of saw this happening, and he said basically that the Premier League are taking the piss with this. That it needs to be regulated. Agents need to be regulated. And one sentence in particular. Sorry, go on.
Yeah, what? So you got to explain a little bit more. So he said they're taking a piss in what respect?
He was just saying that the Premier League treats the football league clubs like a sort of peasant begging for scraps, and they give you a couple of quid. They get given
players.
So the Premier League has to pay the EFL a certain amount of money. Atkinson Stanley make about, Adam, tell me if I'm wrong on this one, about 340k a year they get given from the Premier League, and they wouldn't be able to exist without that.
Right.
However, the problem you've got here is that the Premier League is it's its own company and entity, yet it's still within this structure of the Football League.
Yeah.
And so they're two different things, but because this is at the top, and it is its own thing, it's kind of giving a few scraps to the other teams. But what it's doing is it's just creating a bigger and bigger and bigger gulf between the rest of the football pyramid and the Premier League. And add to that this whole story about agents and the amount of money that they're making. So £220 million from Premier League clubs went to agents. And 2 years ago, I think FIFA deregulated the whole thing. So anyone can be an agent and they can do their deals.
Well, they're not even called agents; they're called intermediaries.
Right.
That might be
Intermediaries.
Intermediaries.
Let us know in the comments.
Intermediaries. Anyway, so I mean, this is a lot. You've just said a lot. I'm not sure where to start. But
here's where I kind of want to start, because I think this is so two sentences, right? So Jonathan Barnett, who's the agent of Gareth Bale.
Yes.
He said this. He said, "I'm not employed to be in the game of football. I'm employed to care about my player."
Yes. Right. So
go on. We start with that.
Yeah, from that perspective, he's 100% right. His job isn't to safeguard the integrity of the competition in England or anywhere else. His job is to make sure that his player doesn't get shafted and gets what he deserves in the market that he exists in.
And more if he can get it.
And it's only those that don't get it or are affected by it that generally are upset by that, and that's most people, okay? But his job, what he's there for, is to get the best deal for Gareth Bale.
Yeah, I agree with that completely.
That has nothing to do with anything else. It's nothing to do with football. It's about him doing the job in the same way a lawyer defends a criminal, because everyone deserves a defence. Everyone deserves someone who can look out for you in business sense, because footballers aren't... Most people wouldn't know where to start with a contract from a football club. All kinds of stuff. So you need an agent to protect you, otherwise you'll get shafted.
That. What the problem I've got, and it comes from this sentence that really stuck out for me from Andy Holt, Accrington Stanley's chairman. He's saying football, it's not about community anymore, it's about money. And so without the regulation and without, I know there's over the years there's been a lot of talk about a salary cap for players, but what the growing influence that you're seeing from agents means you've got money going out of the game, firstly. So that 220 million quid, that's going out of the game. It's not going back into it. That's not going to a player who's inspiring the next generation of players.
Yeah.
That's not going to Jack Collison, who's then going to start his own little academy, soccer school academy, and get people doing grassroots. It's not going to the FA, so they can put it in grassroots so that we can win a World Cup, which creates national pride. There's all these amazing... So I did sport development at university, so I strongly believe the power of sport.
Yeah.
And all this money going out of it,
yeah,
that's lives that could have been changed with that money, right?
Yeah.
The second point I've got with this is that these agents are going to have more and more influence on where players go and what happens to the game.
I think they already do.
Yeah, I agree. And I think you see that in this Raiola deal,
yeah.
The fact that he's making that much money. And if people with influence don't have the best interests of whatever company it is, whatever association it is, whatever.
Yeah.
If they're not employed to be in the game of football, employed to care about my player.
Yeah.
Then the game of football is screwed.
Well, it was screwed in that respect. In terms of the community aspect, it was screwed when the Premier League was formed and Sky Sports became such a powerful. Have such a powerful role in British football. What you've got is an independent company in the Premier League that runs that league, and then who aren't really going to be interested in competition. They just want the most money, the most powerful league, and earn X, Y, and Z. Then you've got inside that league structure, top tier league, you've got teams who also don't care about the community but care about their own agenda. So essentially you've got 21 companies at the top of this football pyramid who don't give a shit about anybody else. And as a football club in a capitalist society, they're doing the right thing for them. Why should they give a shit about Accrington Stanley? I do, as a football fan. I appreciate that smaller clubs are struggling.
I get that point.
But Daniel Levy doesn't give a shit.
No, I get that point of view, but for example, the Premier League, they're the cool kids, right? In this school year, they're the cool kids. So because they're the cool kids, do they get all the money and all the prestige and all they get all the advantages, and you forget about the rest of the year?
I think that's a too simplistic way of looking. They're the cool kids because they've been able to put...
Kid, the least cool of the cool kids gets told to go back with the uncool kids.
Right.
And so they're all going to be ruthless amongst each other.
Yeah.
But the thing that is most important in all, it should be the game and making the game great.
Think of it like that. Right?
So I think we're in a huge mess here.
Yeah, but this is like, you think it's like the same thing in society with the welfare state, right? You've got lots of rich people that pay a lot in tax that helps prop up the welfare state that probably don't really want that paid. And then at the other end, you've got the recipients of welfare who want more. It isn't enough to live on the dole. They need more money to get on their feet and crack on so that they can get up into a position where they can have a job, become middle class, and then contribute back to the system, right? So Accrington Stanley, essentially on a welfare payout from the Premier League.
Yeah. The
Premier League's like saying, all right, we have to give you this because we've got to maintain the integrity of the sport because it's part of the rules. We can't create a monopoly where the top 20 teams will be the only ones that are relevant, anchor and earn money, although things like the financial fair play, EEEP schemes are all moving away from the smaller clubs getting what they deserve. So essentially you've got this system where the small clubs are placated because they need that 319,000, otherwise they go out of business, but it isn't really enough for them to build on and move on. So I understand these frustrations, and I understand it's good when you get someone who's kind of militant and comes out and talks about it, because you can get some movement towards it becoming a fairer system. But ultimately, the Premier League I actually don't think it's a company. I think it's a social enterprise. But the football clubs are very much profit making, bottom line, shareholder answering.
But that distance is only going to get bigger and bigger, and so they're only going to get further away, and that ends in this. It ends in this Super League, doesn't it?
Yeah, maybe
that's the end.
Maybe.
That's how it ends.
I don't know. I mean, but even if it does, right? Even if it does, then let them go. Let them go, and you'll have your own competition, because it will still mean as much to the fans going through the turnstiles as it would if the top 20 clubs in England were playing in a part of the competition. You know, you see the amount of fans that are actually kind of moving away from big names and following their local clubs. Ultimately, football is a beautiful game. It's the beautiful game, right? And it's still the game whether or not the Premier League are a part of it or not, whether Celtic and Rangers are a part of Scotland. When Aberdeen play Hibs, they're still going to hate each other and they're still going to be firing that game, whether Rangers and Celtic are a part of that league at all. There's a misconception that you need all the money, you need all these big clubs to make sure that the competition is viable. What they're actually saying is that to make sure the commercial aspect of the business is viable. But fans ultimately don't care about that. You're made to believe it's important that you've got Gareth Bale playing for your football club, Ronaldo playing for your football club, whoever. It's not important. It's not important because you'll feel as passionately about mediocre players who are filling their shirt with pride, getting paid half the money.
But one of the cornerstone of the life lessons of sport is fairness, right? And an equal playing field. And that's what I see getting worse and worse and worse with English football, is that the playing fields, it's just and QPR have benefited from it to a point. They get those massive parachute payments, which gives you that chance to kind of. But the only reason you needed those parachute payments in the first place is because it's not evenly distributed at the start of it.
I mean, I kind of agree with you, and I do. But we've always had dominant teams. You always had the same teams at the top of the league, more or less.
In the 70s, each year, I think I'm right in saying this, I might be wrong. I swear in the 70s there was so many, like Derby won the league, Forest won the league, Liverpool won the league, you know, Everton won the league.
You're
and that's
right,
a beautiful time. Imagine imagine QPR could go up and then win the league.
It is a beautiful time, but in the 37 years prior to that, there's always been a kind of a dominant side. There's Liverpool, Man United. You had Chelsea, Man City, Arsenal, and I've missed someone, I feel, but you know, it's the nature of things. It's always going to be about what. Even when Spurs won the league in 1961, it was about how much money we've spent on our team. We had a brilliant side, but we spent a fortune.
True.
So I don't know. I can understand why the Accrington Stanley guy is angry, and the Premier League. It would be a good thing for them to do it. Is there any real obligation when they hold all the power? Probably not.
Well, and getting back to the agents, that needs to be regulated for me, because at least the money would. the money that these Premier League teams are getting is huge. But at least that's still in football. For money to go out of football,
it's a shame.
That feels really wrong.
Yeah, absolutely. I think in that respect, as we were speaking to Jim Irwood, he was a former football agent upstairs, and he said that what will have happened with Pogba is that there would have been a number of football clubs involved. The agent would have likely said, "This is my fee. Which one of you are happy to meet it?" He used that to help him influence Pogba's decision. And if that is true, then that's a shame, because it isn't about loyalty. It's not even about the amount of money that in wages that you pay to a player. Or the ambition of a football club. Is essentially the agent's whim.
Yeah.
Or the agent's will where they end up.
There's too much ability to manipulate it.
But then where else is Pogba? Pogba was always going to end up at one of the top clubs, and all of those clubs are going to serve him well. I mean, actually, probably made the biggest mistake by joining United, because he hasn't had the greatest season. He probably could have joined any of the other big football clubs in Europe and had a better season.
I'd have no problem with that. The problem I have is the 41 million quid that he's made out of that. That seems too much. That looks like a little bit too much.
There has
to be some kind of...
Yeah, you should be a regular. But currently, FIFA just advise that the agents shouldn't get a fee from transfers. You're not supposed to. This is the FIFA said. We advise you don't.
Okay.
But as we know, and hopefully it's getting better, FIFA is one of the most corrupt corrupt organisations. It is the most corrupt. Do you know what I mean? It's riddled with corruption, and that's come to the fore now. And when the fish stinks, it stinks from the head, James.
Loves that one. Yeah, true.
What sort of example?
Does the head still stink though?
Yeah, it all stinks.
Infantino,
the whole fish all stinks.
It all stinks.
Yeah,
it just
reeks.
Kongs, right?
Reeks of shit.
Bore-off game of the week. Man City versus West Brom. All right, let's move on to Soldiers Lost in Battle. So still to come 2 for the weekend, 3 for the weekend. We've got questions to answer. But first, Soldiers Lost in Battle.
Let's get some volume on this.
Let's get some volume on it.
I thought the music was a bit low last week. It wasn't emotive enough for me.
Right, okay. Flav, as I get the music ready, would you like to... Okay.
All right. Again, as we explained, if for some reason you haven't been able to go to the football, then don't worry, James. You can get through this. There's some terrible reason why you couldn't come to the football. Then let us know.
And thank you for your bravery. Patrick Dempsey. Planning on going to Stockholm for the Europa League final if United get through. College exam timetable came out last week, and the last exam is on the same fucking day as the final, at 3:30.
Mate.
My life's a mess.
Sorry to hear that, mate.
Harry Robinson. I was forced to miss a certain Norwich versus Liverpool fixture because somebody needed help with the shopping. It's only Norwich, I thought to myself, as I missed one of the highest scoring games of my lifetime as a Liverpool fan. That's tough.
That is tough.
Ryan W. Cockrell. When I was 9, I missed the penalties of the Istanbul Champions League final. My dad sent me to bed during extra time because I was too anxious and emotional. Although I experienced the comeback, I'll never know what it felt like to win.
I mean, your dad has got some questions to answer there. That is heartbreaking.
Hashtag Soldiers Lost in Battle. And finally, Blake Newton. I don't know what this game is, but I had to miss the game last week due to falling over and cracking my head open the night before. Alcohol will lead to things like that.
Yeah.
That's it for this week's.
I mean, all of them were pretty tough apart from the last one, which seems a legitimate reason to not miss a game. I think you might have missed the point somewhere.
Your health has got to come first.
Yeah. I mean, if you don't put your health first, then you come second.
Nice.
Generally.
Really good. So that was it. We've Let us know your difficult moments. The games that you've had to miss, the games that your friends have had to miss. If you've got some messages of support for them, or if in any footballing world or sphere or situation when something really difficult and sad has happened?
When I was a kid, England were playing Holland, I think, in a World Cup qualifier or could have been European Championship qualifier.
1994, 93, 94 was it that?
And John Barnes scored a free kick in the first minute or two.
Right.
My dad had sent me to bed. He was sending me to bed and he was like, go on, past your bedtime, you get upstairs. And I would have been 13, 14, which, you know, this was like 8 o'clock in the evening. So I think my dad was being pretty harsh there in any case. But John Barnes scored that free kick and he looked at me and went, come on, sit down. And I tell you what, I never felt better in all my life. It was amazing.
I've got this game. It was on my birthday. Well, before I was born. No, I was born. 1993.
Yeah.
2-2 it was.
Yeah, it was 2-2.
John Barnes free kick. 1 minute. Yeah.
I don't think we qualified.
No, we didn't.
No. Which is kind of
sad.
Yeah. Which is was sad. But
what is the... Do you know what, next week actually, Flav?
Yeah.
You have a think. What's the saddest, most unfortunate thing you've experienced in football?
Inside of football?
Sort of a story, yeah.
Well, if you want a joke, I haven't got that. But
Okay.
if you've got...
Oh, well, you can do it seriously.
I could do a serious one if you want. I
yeah.
nearly watched...
Or we could leave it.
Yeah, okay, let's leave it.
Let's leave it. Well, the saddest thing that I think I've seen, I've witnessed, was my mate got drafted in to play football, really hungover, and it was his birthday that day.
Drafted in to play football where?
Sunday League.
All right.
And he was playing in like right wing or something.
Yeah.
And the goalie kicked it out, and then two people went to head it, and it went up, and then he kind of got near it and just went to just whack it long. But he got a bit confused and just volleyed it from 35 yards back into his own goal. It was his birthday.
He's got a 35-yard volleyed
own goal
into
his own net on his birthday.
That is bad. I had a mate called Danny Hazel. He's not dead. I have a mate called Danny Hazel.
All right.
And he went in for a challenge. Big geezer, right? Big geezer who played right back. Went in for a challenge, sat down and broke this guy's leg. Sat on his leg and broke it, right? Next season, same team. Geezer's come back from injury. Plays him again. Goes in on him really hard. Breaks his leg again. No word of a lie. Yeah, they weren't happy.
No, I bet.
I mean...
Well, there you go. That's an example as well. Let us know your saddest stories in football.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Would you, have you ever broken your leg playing football?
I've been very lucky. Touch wood.
Have you? I think my bottle might go because I look.
If you broke your leg.
I
played with a guy and he'd broken his leg and he was so scared.
Yeah.
So scared afterwards.
Yeah, it would. It's traumatic, and you think about one of the most horrendous injuries. You know, like Shaw's leg break injury was terrible.
Yeah.
And
maybe we should give that guy a break.
Well, I'm thinking that.
No pun intended.
Just put myself in the eye.
Yeah,
I mean, Adam, you had an ACL injury.
Yeah.
Happy birthday to Adam.
Oh yeah,
happy birthday to Adam in the comments. Do it now.
And good luck. You got the op on the ACL injury, but you had one before, didn't you?
Yeah.
And are you aware of it when you came back and played?
Yeah, 100%. It affects your confidence a lot.
Really?
Yeah.
What, you're just worried about it?
It's just on your mind.
Yeah.
You won't go into the same situation that you snapped your ACL in last time in the same way.
Yeah.
So I did mine trying to shield. I was trying to stop the player shielding the ball out.
Yeah.
And now every time I see that on TV,
yeah, you feel it.
Two players trying to stop. One's trying to shield the ball out, the other's trying to keep it in. I'm wincing.
Bloody
what was you jockeying? Was you jockeying down, or was you just trying?
He was trying to shield it out, and I was trying to keep it in.
Yeah.
And our legs just sort of tangled, and I flew off and just.
And you got legged off.
Do you think the soldiers lost in battle the next time they go to the football? They're kind of emotionally.
What, in case
they might scared they might miss another game. Yeah.
Yeah, I think
it's the same thing, isn't it?
Yeah, I think they watch football religiously in case they miss anything.
So they miss a game. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, that one about his dad sending him to bed. But you can imagine how emotional was he? Let us know actually again in the comments. How emotional were you being? Like how were you completely losing your shit and doing your dad's head in? And you just thought, you know what?
So Ryan W. Cockrell.
Yeah, this kid's got to go. Or was it that your dad was? I don't know. I mean, you asked him to explain himself.
Maybe he was in a difficult state and he just wanted to be free in
Yeah,
that moment.
because
And so the way of being free in that moment is to send you to bed, so he can just be there with the television
Yeah,
and the penalty shootout.
yeah,
It's tough.
yeah.
It's parenting. That's parenting.
I mean, sometimes, yeah.
2 for the weekend time. So if you don't follow the Long Ball Street at Long Ball Street on Twitter, do it now,
Oh yeah, do that.
because people don't do that.
Yeah, we've only got 400 followers on there, and we haven't pushed it properly, and it feels like it needs more.
So now is the moment. Yeah, follow us at Long Ball Street.
Yeah.
And get your questions in for Long Ball Street and
Yeah.
for this one as well. And yeah, just come have a chat. Have a chat with us. So right, 3 questions. Normally we do 2 for the weekend. We're doing 3 for the weekend this week.
Yes.
Right. Firstly, Robbie Savage has come out and said that Wayne Rooney is the most underappreciated player in England. The Football Standard at Footy Standard ask, is Wayne Rooney the most underappreciated player in England?
I can understand completely where. I mean, yeah, he is. It's out of order. He scored so many goals for England, so many goals for Man United. He's the record goal scorer for Man United, and seemingly from the Man United fans, they hate his guts.
Yeah.
Right, and England, no one really likes him much. And press get on his back. He played for some of the worst. He played for some really abject England teams where all of our hopes were placed on him, and it was that typical England way of English press and English people way of approaching a young star that is at 16. Let's break him before. Let's load him up with so much pressure, and so that he breaks before he's even begun to fulfil his potential. And then, when he's potentially in a situation where he could start to kind of kick on, let's replace him with the next 16-year-old who isn't ready yet. You know what I mean? We don't deserve these players. We don't deserve Wayne Rooney.
Do you think if he was media trained and looked like David Beckham, if he was David Beckham but with Wayne Rooney's career, do you think he'd get the stick that he gets?
I think he's
I know that's a really shallow way of looking at it, but I think sometimes people are that shallow.
Yeah. Jamie Redknapp said an amazing thing, and he doesn't often, but he did say something. He goes, if Christian Eriksen had a mental haircut and was tattooed up all over his face and body, he'd be worth £20 million more than he is currently. But because he's unassuming, it kind of goes under the radar somewhat. Beckham's look and the way he played football as well, it was easy to, he had such grace and finesse and struck the ball in a way that I haven't seen any other footballer do really. But he had limitations in his game, and he made up for them by hard work. Wayne Rooney, though, is a level of it's the media training, the unwillingness to conform, and ultimately that he called all England fans idiots or dug them out for booing. Yeah, well, he showed a lack of understanding of how much money it cost.
But that was from a good place, that he was pissed off that that it wasn't going his way because he wanted it to. So all the intentions were right.
Yeah, of course.
But
your footballer's role is to take that abuse. It's not abuse actually. It's criticism. Booing isn't abuse. It's sort of a reflection of how you feel your team's performed, and if that's the way lots and lots of people choose to collectively express their frustration, then so be it. But he was silly to say that because it puts you in a bad position.
Yeah.
But for Man United, it's a different kettle of fish because he's done a magnificent job for them.
He's only 31, guy, as well. Like, people think that he's so past it.
No, I know. But
I know people have a shelf life.
Yeah.
But I don't buy the fact that he's still not a quality player.
No, I think he's a quality player.
I really hope he leaves because I think he deserves better.
I hope he leaves. I hope he doesn't go to China. I hope he doesn't go to America. I hope he actually sticks around in the Premier League. From a footballing perspective, I'll be interested in watching and see how he does at, say, West Brom. That's where all of
West Brom.
That's where all of the
taking over West Brom.
That's where they all go. Where do you think he will end up? Where do you think he'll go?
The dream's Everton, isn't it?
Yeah,
dream's Everton.
Do you think
I think he'd be silly to not want that.
I just that makes sense, and I think the Everton fans would have him back.
Him doing. It's what player does he want to be now? Does he want to be a striker? I've always really quite liked him as a midfielder. People go crazy about this. Well, I was in at the Euros and watched him against Russia, and he destroyed them first half. I think he got taken off, and it made I'm not going to be wrong with that. But he was fantastic in that first game.
I agree. I think he can play in midfield. I think he hasn't played as a lone striker for so long that
I think that's really killed him a bit.
That player that we grew up with when he burst into the scene as a 16-year-old, and from the 5 years after that where he played for Man United and was tearing it up, that player disappeared when he was forced into tactical roles where either he didn't have the speed or they thought that the game changed so that a number 10 became crucial, and we thought, well, Rooney is more of a number 10 than he is a number 9, but is he? I think that damaged him massively. And I agree with that. I do think he's the most underappreciated player. I agree. I can't think of anyone else.
Robbie Sabis.
Yeah.
Unbelievable.
Who do you think?
I don't know. Probably Chris Marsden's probably the most underappreciated.
Yeah.
But I think you could give him a break.
Moussa Sissoko.
Underappreciated.
Well, no player can create chaos like him. That's all I'll say.
What a positive spin that was. That's nice. Right, second of the three. Which players do you think will make good managers?
So
we saw this question before. I just want to get Adam involved in this a little bit. Craig, Chelsea fan, said John Terry straight away. Be a great manager.
I don't think passion and commitment really get you very far in modern management.
Yeah, that reeks of the Tony Adams to me a little bit.
100%. I think Craig let his desires and he's
much like John.
Yeah, positive feelings towards John Terry cloud his judgment. It's a silly suggestion. What are you saying?
I think Frank Lampard.
Frank Lampard would be a great shout. I think that makes sense. I still think Gary Neville would be a very good manager. I do.
I mean, because he can explain things so that normal people like me and you can understand.
Yeah. Yes.
I mean, there's something in that. Players are notoriously.
I listened to a podcast with Johnny Evans, and actually with Darren Fletcher, two separate podcasts, and they both seem very, very intelligent and very switched on. And I actually think not being the greatest player is sometimes quite good as a manager, because you can understand. I think you can deal with players of the same level. And often as a manager, say like Ryan Giggs, I would imagine Ryan Giggs would struggle to understand a League One player's perspective on things. You know what I mean? And you have to kind of build your way up to be a successful manager.
This is one of the criticisms of Glenn Hoddle, isn't it? That he was such a good player and he would expect so much from his own players that there was a level or a kind of lack of trust from the players and a lack of trust from the manager.
But then
Dubry said when Hoddle was at Chelsea, he said Hoddle at something like 42 was still clearly the best player.
Yeah.
And it's so hard when you're pinging a ball. He's like Michael Dubry on the Long Ball Street podcast earlier in the season. He said that Glenn Hoddle said, just hit the ball over there. And he goes like this. And he just pinged it and it just landed on the toe of this other player. And the dude was like, I can't do that. I'll put people up in the air.
Yeah.
I get my head on it. That's my game. And you end up being terrified.
So in the same breath with Glenn Hoddle, all England players that played with him, the man management wasn't great, but they've all said as a coach, as a football mind, he's right up there.
Yeah.
And so he did have that higher understanding at the top level.
Yeah.
Maybe that's what chairman should be switched on to, is that don't be scared to go, like Man United, don't be scared to have Ryan Giggs, because he's better off working with players who have that high top elite level mindset and understanding of what to do and how to do it, rather than him going to a Swansea because he's got to make his way up.
Harry Redknapp always used to say there was loads of really good managers in the lower leagues. John Steele, he talked about Dagenham, Redbridge, Barnet, and he said if you give them the players that I've had to work with, you'll see them perform, you'll see them, but because it's a risk from a Premier League club's perspective to employ managers of the lower leagues, because they haven't had the egos and all the other things. But in terms of tactical acumen, it's probably
even in the Premier League. I think that's why Tony Pulis knows how to get the best out of mediocre Premier League players.
Yeah,
and therefore he's very successful. But probably for the same thing, that's what holds him back and stops him from being a manager of one of the best clubs, because it doesn't make sense. How can you play football as well as those guys if you haven't got the players that are as good as those guys. Doesn't
Yeah,
make
it's
sense.
tough. It's tough. I guess it's ultimately the players like. Again, I also loathe to talk about Tottenham because I know I bring it back to Tottenham all the time, but it's just that Pochettino's a good example because one of these key things, apart from getting results, is actually turning average footballers into very good ones. He did it at Southampton. He's done it again at Tottenham. So it's and it helps the fact that he isn't English. I think there was that. I don't know. I don't know the answer to the question.
No, but you know, this is another one for the comments. I think it'd be interesting to know what people think. I generally think I like centre backs as managers because I think they see the whole game. I think you can get a great understanding. So like Pochettino, a cultured centre back who who gets that understanding of what the mechanics of a whole team have got to do. I think that's quite good. So you never know. Maybe John Terry has got that, and he's obviously worked for some great managers. So maybe he has got it. But yeah, I think Lampard's a good shout out as well. Last one. Quickly. Adam was saying that he. God, I was going to not do it, but I got it. He was saying John Terry's been linked with Brentford, and he was saying asked me today. I really hate John Terry, but make him a Brentford player. I'll tell you, I'll have a bit of that. Yeah. He's well keen on it.
So get on board with John Terry.
Well, Hardy Dean, John Terry. That would be a powerful centre back pairing. That would.
So is there a player that you'd hate it, but you kind of deep down you'd love it?
Yeah, a player you hate, but if he played for your club,
You'd be buzzing. Yeah.
Yeah, so like obvious ones like Ronaldo.
That's a good shout.
There are some, but I don't want to say.
Yeah, I know what you mean.
I just don't want to say. I mean, there's the Tottenham fan in me. The fan in me says never a single Gooner will ever play at my football club, even though
Ryan Ricketts.
A few have. Ryan Ricketts, Adebayor, Gallas, Bentley. You know, there's precedent's been set. But I do look at Sanchez and I think, he'd win us the league.
Yeah.
I mean, there's no chance he'd come, and there's no chance Tottenham would go after him, but he would win us the league.
Yeah, true.
So, I mean,
I think John Terry is the one for me. Like, he is resoundingly hated at QPR, and I've said this before. The way, I've never heard boos like I did when he came back after the whole Telford thing. Everyone's just
boo you.
Great big boo.
There's a boo for you.
But the way that he walked through that game, you could not. You couldn't not respect that.
John Terry was absolutely mustard, the very best defender for large parts of his career in the Premier League, in my opinion.
Okay, and last one. So Jamie Kent at Jamie Lee Kent. Do you support follow / have a soft spot for another club? If so, who?
Not really. I hate them all. Every club that comes to Tottenham is my enemy.
Cool.
I have sympathy for some clubs like Hull. I've always had an affinity for. I always liked Palace when they were in the lower leagues when I was a kid, but no. By and large, no. The answer is no. I don't. But I do like some clubs, and I'd like some clubs what they're about. Weird one. I've always had a begrudging respect for West Ham because in a world where there's so much there's so much money, there's so much kind of razzmatazz in Premier League football, they've still got that grassroots football club feel to them. Despite all of what Sullivan and Gold and Brady have done, the intrinsic to West Ham is this grassroots, local, community-based football club, and you can't not admire that.
I think, but I guess if you're a West Ham fan, what's scary about that is ask that same question in 10 years' time. Will they still have that feeling because of what they've done?
Yeah, I mean, ultimately,
things
I don't care. Yeah. In 10 years if they don't. I don't care if they exist, but I do care because I know Nicky and he's a lovely.
But my point is that if you don't cherish those things, then you lose them.
And hold on to them.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, that's the most important thing about West Ham.
Mine's Brecon City. My mum is from Brecon. She's Scottish. They're a second division, sometimes first division Scottish team. No, sorry, third and second division Scottish team. And they often have a battle with Clyde. Like Clyde are a team that are always just a tiny bit better than Brecon.
From my whole life. Derby?
I don't think it's a derby.
Well,
anyway.
Okay.
But yeah, no Clyde always do a little bit better than Brecon. So I actually don't like Clyde
Yeah,
because of that, which is odd.
Yeah.
But yeah. So
yeah.
Brecons, I've got a soft spot for them.
Do you know what Adam's favourite, second
QPR.
favourite team? Bangor City.
Bangor City, yeah.
Because he's on our Twitter. He's responsible for all the bangers, Adam.
All right, Bangor City.
His favourite team's Bangor City.
That's brilliant.
Do you like that?
That's really good.
Yeah.
Right, so that's it for one for the weekend. Just to say, 3 upsets and 3 bankers. Flav, his upsets this week are...
My upsets,
weirdly,
I made a mistake.
Yeah.
I made a mistake.
Okay.
And I'd like to apologise to my mother and my father for bringing shame on the family name. Although my mum, it doesn't matter. I did an upset of West Ham versus Liverpool, and I also said Borough to beat Southampton.
Yeah, and you did put Spurs there as well, but you said that was a mistake.
I made a mistake.
And your bankers, Flav?
My bankers are Man City versus Leicester, but bore off, who wants to talk about that. Arsenal versus Sunderland, because Sunderland are the worst team ever to play football. And Chelsea versus Watford. Watford have absolutely no chance in stopping Chelsea. Absolute banker. Get on it.
We've got similar bankers. I've got the same. I've got Arsenal to win, Chelsea to win, and the other banker I've gone with is Fulham. I think they're the best team in the league. Upsets for me, Huddersfield are going to get that win against Sheffield Wednesday because they're going to defend resolutely. Leicester are going to get a draw against Man City despite their awful away record, and Hull are going to draw with Crystal Palace. Actually, I think my upset is that they're going to win that one.
I just want to know, if Spurs win, do I still get the points for the upset?
Sure.
Yeah? Okay,
Yeah.
good. I'll take that.
You guys can play as well. You can play in the comments on YouTube. We're going to copy and paste it.
Download the Beta app, get on that.
I was going to just about to say that.
Was you?
Yeah. But the Beta app is available as well, so you can play for real.
Yeah.
Not with real money.
Yeah.
With fake cash.
But you can you can involve your friends in it as well and join the little leagues and stuff. It's cool.
Exactly. So yeah, so that is in a link in the description. So go and check that out.
You can win a trip to China.
You can win a trip to China to meet Sven-Göran Eriksson.
Yeah.
What?
Unbelievable.
What part of China?
Don't know. Wherever Sven-Göran Eriksson manages.
I think it's Hong. Is it Hong Kong? Or is it Hong Kong? Who knows? Look. I'm sure it's on the link. Click the link.
Yes.
There you go. Result.
There you go.
That was one for the weekend. Subscribe to Long Ball Street and all the other bits. And we'll see you next week.
It's good seeing you again, James.
You too, mate. Get back to work now.
That was 5.